Game Week 6 is here and it's going to be a transfer extravaganza. Fear not, we have all of the stats covered in this week's Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid. If you're new to the series, this is how it works. This video is split into two parts, the first of which we will be having a look at those players you may already have in your squad and which ones you should keep and which ones you should sell. After that, we'll be talking replacements with which players you should buy and which players maybe you should avoid. Players will be tier listed with the best players at the top and the worst ones at the bottom. Kicking things off with the forwards that you may have in your team already, and there's some pretty obvious keeps in here, I think. Gyökeres is, of course, a player you might be thinking about selling in order to fund some moves for the likes of Erling Haaland, but I think he's definitely going to be a player I would prefer to keep. Done quite well so far. Arsenal are creating chances for him, and he does seem to be knocking a few goals in. 3 goals in 5 isn't too bad, and I think there's a good chance he keeps penalties, even with Saka back and available. Joao Pedro had his first blip of the season against Manchester United, but the 10-man Chelsea team, you can kind of understand why. But I still think he is going to be a really good FPL asset at that kind of price tag. 2 goals, 5 assists in 5 games. It's 2 goals, 3 assists, sorry, in 5 games. Really, really nice. Brighton at home up next, which I think is a good fixture for getting some goals in there. I think he should be back to business before long. I have Alexander Isak in here as a keep as well. I think this is maybe a little bit of a tricky one. For me, I definitely wouldn't buy Isak, and I'm not even really sure I'd want him in my squad personally. But if you were so keen on Isak that you bought him in before he even played a minute of football for Liverpool, or certainly in the Premier League, then you're probably going to want to hold him onto him in the games where he actually could maybe get a start. Game Week 6 is probably the first opportunity for Isak to start for Liverpool, and he should continue to start after that. So if you did really want Isak before, there is no reason your mind should have changed now that he's actually a better pick, a better asset than he was a couple of weeks ago. So for you guys who have bought Isak, I think he's a keep, but, you know, he's not an FPL asset I love generally, at least not yet, for that price tag. Ekitike 1 to monitor. He's also going to be a bit of a rotation risk player with Isak now available to maybe start some games. He has been in some phenomenal form, and I don't think it's time to sell Isak quite yet. I'd like to actually see him on the bench before selling him, to be honest. The fixtures aren't amazing for the Liverpool boys, but it has to be said, Ekitike has done everything that has been required of him so far. So, bit of a mystery how things will shape up with Isak and Ekitike. We'll have to wait and see, but if you have these players, I guess you've just got to monitor the situation until we get more information. We've got Mateta here in the monitor section as well. He has got some tough fixtures coming up, but I don't know if he's massively worth selling as long as he continues to play games. There has been some murmurings that he has been playing maybe too many games recently and therefore is maybe a little bit exhausted right now, but as long as he keeps starting, going to be that penalty taking man. I think even the likes of Liverpool, Everton, Bournemouth, maybe not so much Arsenal, but these are fixtures you could maybe grab a goal in, and if anyone's going to score for Crystal Palace, it's probably going to be Mateta. So for that reason, he is going to be a monitor for now, may look to move on in the near future. Chris Wood continues to disappoint, but it is a nice fixture up next at home against Sunderland. Maybe it's not the perfect fixture, or maybe not as good as we previously thought it was, but it's certainly okay. The worry is with Wood is maybe he could be rotated if he is not really suited to the Ange Postecoglou system, and I feel like that's what we've probably seen from Chris Wood so far. So he could definitely be dropped before too long. I think he's probably good for Game Week 6, but maybe not. From Game Week 7, it is a mystery, so definitely a player to monitor if you have him in your squad, but not a definite sell. And Richarlison is an interesting monitor here as well. I do think he is definitely going to be rotation risk with all of the forwards now available for Tottenham Hotspur. Solanke has been back in training now for the last week. We see Tell playing a game in the forward position in Game Week 4, and we've also got Kolo Muani as well. So just be aware, even though Richarlison, you know, he has been doing well, he has been scoring goals, he is getting the occasional rotation so far in all competitions, including in Game Week 4 in the Premier League. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another rotation in the near future. So whilst the fixtures are good, probably worth holding on to, but definitely a player to keep an eye on, particularly if you don't want those benching headaches later on in the season. And sell Ollie Watkins. I've run out of excuses for him, to be honest. The data has now dropped off a cliff. It seems to be getting worse rather than better. He actually started the season off reasonably, you know, okay for those underlying stats, and I thought he could catch up with his kind of XG numbers, but it is getting worse and worse. This is a really negative signs around Aston Villa right now, and they just do not look very good at the moment whatsoever. Fulham is a pretty tough defence, and even though there's a nice Burnley a home fixture in Game Week 7, Spurs and Man City after that, it's going to be time to remove Aston Villa players by that point anyway. So I think he's a pretty easy player to sacrifice at that price tag, particularly if you're looking for a certain new striker in your FPL team. Benjamin Šeško is going to remain in the sell category for this week. I think more people are selling him. Still not nailed on, still seeing reduced minutes, and hasn't really impressed too much in a Manchester United shirt so far. How long can we wait? Probably not much longer. And Mark Gu, another player who remains in the sell category. If you do have him, you want to make a forward upgrade, Mark Gu is a pretty easy player to sell there. In the midfield category, if you have a Reinders, you have to keep him, surely. I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I saw that Reinders has actually dropped down in price from 5.7 to 5.6 million. That only happened a couple of days ago. Crazy, crazy stuff, but people are selling him apparently, and that's probably going to be a bad idea. Burnley at home next. Reinders looks more nailed on than he has before. Doesn't seem to be going anywhere in this Man City team, at least for the time being. So if he continues to perform well, taking plenty of shots, creating for his teammates as well. We see 9 shots, 6 key passes. It's very, very good for a 5.6 million man. And now that the fixtures look so great for Man City, you wonder if he could bump those numbers up a little bit more and be even more value for money than he has already been. One thing about his key passes is even though his expected assist data is only 0.43 with 2 assists, that is an overperformance. But when you have a finisher like Erling Haaland in your team, it is pretty easy to get assists, even if your passes aren't necessarily creating those not 0.9 XG chances, if you know what I mean. We've got Grealish here in the keep category as well. Don't really see too much of a reason to sell him unless maybe you're on a wild card. You just fancy going for a different midfielder instead. Maybe you like Njai more than Grealish. If you're on a free hit, if you're on a wild card, totally get it. These buy, sell, keep, avoid videos are primarily to contend with those of you guys using transfers and not using chips. So yeah, there's going to be good information in these videos for everyone, of course, but in terms of using transfers, should you sell Grealish? In my opinion, probably no. And Enzo Fernandez, if Palmer is going to be unavailable for Game Week 6, which is a real possibility, then Enzo is going to be on penalties, maybe playing a little more advanced for Chelsea, taking up a more creative responsibility. When Palmer has not been in the team, Enzo has typically flourished so far this season, and therefore I would definitely include Enzo as a keep if Palmer is going to be out. But really, Brighton at home, I don't see any strong reason to sell Enzo ahead of this fixture, whether Palmer is available or not. Speaking of Palmer, here he is in the monitor section, and he has to be in this section given that he has this groin injury that seems to be really, really bugging him. It's not really going away. He had to kind of come off against Manchester United in Game Week 5 because of this recurring issue and pain he is having in his groin area. So therefore, we do need to keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on press conferences. If he is available, then for sure you're going to keep Palmer for this next run of fixtures. Brighton at home, and then after Liverpool, I think the fixtures are really nice for Chelsea, actually. So Palmer is going to be a really crucial FPL asset to have, but only if he is fit and he can start to get over this injury that he has currently. Let's see what happens there. Maybe when there's less Champions League games for him to be so crucial in playing, then that might open up more minutes for Palmer during the weekends in the Premier League. That's kind of the hope there, I suppose. We've got Brian Mbeumo here as well. Actually, pretty decent underlying data here. Yes, he's only got 1 goal, but 15 shots and 2 big chances with 1.85 XG is actually among the top among midfielders so far this season. So really good stuff. 1.34 expected assists with 8 key passes is also really strong. So this guy is putting up really good data. He continues to put up good data. And therefore, I do think that goals are probably coming. Now, I appreciate we said the same thing about Ollie Watkins, but whilst Ollie Watkins' trend is kind of downwards in terms of that underlying data, Mbeumo seems pretty consistent in his data so far this season. So not really too much to worry about so far. And, you know, like I say, we've got some good fixtures for Manchester United coming up next. We've got some Liverpool players in here next. Cody Gakpo is probably not an essential sell, but definitely a player that could be sacrificed. I do wonder if he could be impacted by some of the other players coming back for Liverpool, whether that's Isak or, you know, Szoboszlai now moving into the midfield position, whereas Vert's going to fit in as well. Could Gakpo maybe miss out in some games? Possibly, but this is just speculative at this precise moment. But again, the fixtures are not great. His form has dipped a little bit since the start of the season. So you do have to wonder if he could be a player worth selling. Mo Salah, poor fixtures, poor form. I mean, I don't want to say poor data. The data is not bad, but it's not 14.5 million. You know, this is not the elite levels of Salah that we've seen before. I think the issue with Liverpool right now, and we can say the same about Gakpo and Verts and Ekitike, even Isak, all of these players are great at scoring goals, getting assists. But if you're only going to score a few goals per game, and that is on a good day, then it's going to be spread pretty evenly around a lot of players. So again, these players are not, these Liverpool players, you know, this looks like a great Liverpool team to go ahead and win the Premier League. But in terms of individual value on each player from an FPL perspective, they seem to be dropping off a little bit here. And that's why Salah he's not going to be a sell. I don't think Salah can ever be truly considered a sell unless he is injured or unavailable or at AFCON maybe. But right now, yeah, you're probably going to want to sell him if you want to kind of make an upgrade elsewhere. That doesn't make him a must-sell player necessarily, because he's still a Liverpool attacker, still a penalty taker. He's still always going to have a chance of getting attacking returns, just maybe not providing the value for money that we're looking for him right now. That could all change in the very near future. Florian Wirtz has got to be a sell. Yeah, continues to be a sell. He is just putting up nowhere near enough data, enough output really to justify his price tag, and the fixtures are dipping now as well for this Liverpool team with two tough away fixtures. Manchester United at home maybe is a bit nicer than that, but yeah, can we trust Wirtz, particularly if there is going to be the occasional rotation for him, which I don't think anyone expected in game week 1, but here we are. We've got to move with the new information. Morgan Rogers, I wouldn't be surprised to see him dropped in the next game week. Actually, even though Watkins has played okay in some parts of the season, Rogers has really looked off it so far. So I think taking the pressure off him, giving him a break might actually be necessary for this Aston Villa side to start, so Rogers can get a reset and become that great player that we know he is once again. But that doesn't really help us in FPL, and therefore he's got to be a sell. Brendan Johnson, completely rotation risk at this point. I think most people probably accept that by this point, and I think he's a pretty straightforward sell as well if you do have him in your squad. As for those defenders, Virgil van Dijk, if you have him in your team, don't really see a strong reason to sell him. I know a lot of people are selling him right now. I don't think you have to. I think he's fine to keep, partially because he's been so good for defensive contributions. He's already made 60 in 5 games this season. Bearing in mind, you only need to get 10 per game to get the defensive contribution points. It's really nice stuff there. I think there is some possibility for some clean sheets in the near future. I don't think Liverpool are too bad defensively. I think they are improving in that regard. So I think holding on to Virgil is absolutely fine. I'd be more than happy to do that. Kukurea is maybe a player I'd be slightly more inclined to sell, but again, is this the week to do it? Maybe next game week 7, might be a better time to sell Kukurea ahead of that Liverpool fixture. And Murillo, he is actually looking pretty positive for a start in game week 6. He was, of course, unavailable for game week 5, didn't progress as well as initially expected, but he's still got a chance to play in the midweek Europa League game, and also, of course, therefore, is going to have a really strong chance to start at home to Sunderland in game week 6. And as good as Sunderland have been defensively, I don't think Sunderland have offered too much in ways of attacking, chance creation, that kind of thing. So we might not love Nottingham Forest defensively right now, but I think you're always going to have a chance of a clean sheet against a team like Sunderland when playing at home in particular, where maybe the team is more inclined to sit back a little bit further. Munoz is a possible sell, but really I don't think that is super necessary. Liverpool at home is not a great fixture, of course. We know that very, very well. But Crystal Palace, they do like to play against Liverpool. It is one of their favoured fixtures that they like to play. So you never know what's going to happen here. I think Munoz is still a pretty strong FPL asset. We know what he offers in attack. And I think Crystal Palace is still one of the stronger defences in the Premier League so far. Not too bad, really. Already 3 clean sheets in 5 games, which is very nice. Just 2 goals conceded, although there has been a big overperformance there, so just be aware of that. Estev, maybe some people moving off him. They're maybe trying to change up their defense a little bit. Is it really worth wasting a transfer on a 4 million defender? Maybe, maybe not. That's why he's in the monitor section. I don't think he's a must sell, anything like that. Juve, I don't think is too bad either. Of course, you know, West Ham terrible for clean sheets. However, we've got Everton and Brentford in game week 6 and 8. Maybe as a rotation defender, he could still be an okay asset. And we've seen, of course, that he has got some attacking threat there. He's on some corners. He is making crosses, not taking as many shots more recently, but he's still generated 0.19 XG so far this season, which is not too bad for a defender. And Pedro Porro, really poor value for money, I would say. Spurs, sorry, really overperforming their defensive data. We kind of saw that unfold a little bit against Brighton in game week 2, but the fixtures are still really good. I think the problem with Pedro Porro is with no more set pieces, very little attacking threat compared to what we expected. You have to wonder what the value for money is here with him. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh putting him in the monitor section, but at the same time, it's like, the fixtures are good. If Strand Larsen's back for the Wolves game, then are they going to be a little bit better in attack? Then you've kind of got Leeds, which is decent. Aston Villa, can they pick up some form by that point? Lots of mystery around these kind of games, I suppose. But yeah, just one to monitor. Not necessarily a must sell, but one to monitor. Konsa, I would sell despite only 5 goals conceded, which, you know, in fairness, isn't great. 7.6 expected goals conceded. That's non-penalty expected goals conceded there, which is not particularly great. Aston Villa seem to be in relegation form right now, and Konsa is not a player picking up defensive contributions either. Just 18 defensive contributions in the 4 games he's played so far. That is among the worst of all of the defenders in the entire game. So there's really very few positives for Konsa as an FPL pick right now, and therefore he is going to be a sell. Reynaldo is going to be suspended for 3 games, putting him out for game week 8, which is maybe the game week you may have thought about playing him, particularly if you are thinking about a bench boost in game week 8. Unfortunately, Reynaldo has kind of scuppered those plans a little bit, so just removing him, replacing him with either another 4 million defender, if you like the look of Alderete at Sunderland, or you want to move to Rodon or Goodmanson at Leeds, they kind of work for you as well. Maybe a Burnley defender if you want to, of course. Or you can simply upgrade him to a 4.5 to 5 million defender if you want to kind of maybe restructure your squad a little bit and give yourself another defensive option, particularly one that has DEFCON potential there, which we will, of course, be having a look at those defenders that look really good to buy this week as well. And Wan-Bissaka, with the injury issues, with the rotation, we don't really have much attacking threat. We don't have much DEFCON potential. The fixtures are pretty poor, generally speaking. I don't really think Wan-Bissaka should be in many people's teams right now. He's a pretty straightforward sell. And by the way, guys, if you are enjoying this video, make sure you do drop a like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And I should say, guys, we are going to be giving away a copy of FC26 this week. I know the game officially launches on Friday. So, yeah, to a subscriber of the channel, we're going to be giving away a copy of that game. So make sure you do subscribe if you want to have a chance of winning a copy of FC26. So on to some buys in the forward section. We've got a pretty obvious player in the xt1 spot, and that is going to be, of course, Erling Haaland with his incredible data. I mean, look at this, guys. You're so used to seeing me talk about, wow, 1.8 XG. What an amazing pick. How about 6.2 XG in 5 game weeks? How about 21 shots, 20 in the box, and 10 big chances? This is insane numbers we are seeing from Haaland, far better than any other player in the entire Premier League, which makes Haaland, even at 14.3 million, the best value pick player in the entire game. Yeah, value at that kind of price, it sounds crazy, but he is that far ahead of the game right now in terms of his numbers. Burnley at home up next, a real triple captain opportunity there. Brentford, Everton, and Aston Villa in the games after that are also really nice at this present moment. So I love the look of this pick, and I would be making any kind of effort to ensure Haaland is in your game week 6 team. It just seems like such an obvious one, doesn't it? I don't even need to convince you guys probably at this point. In terms of those other forwards to buy, my second and third favorite options this week, and these are kind of the forwards I'm looking at on Wildcard, are Joao Pedro and Gyökeres. So definitely would be looking to pick those up. If you can only pick one of them this week, then maybe Joao Pedro, because he has the better immediate fixture at home against Brighton. And Gyökeres can maybe wait until game week 7. But he's still going to be a really nice pick in game week 7 if you do want to wait a little while longer for him. Evan Nilsson's going to go in a high monitor position. We've got this Leeds away fixture, which is pretty nice, though I'm not sure I love Fulham and Crystal Palace after that, but it's okay. These are not too bad fixtures, generally speaking. Pretty nice for Bournemouth, as we know. And Evan Nilsson at 7 million may offer maybe a slightly more budget-friendly alternative to the likes of Joao Pedro, Gyökeres, if you can't quite afford one of those guys. Just make sure you can afford Haaland. That's the most important thing. But we've got some other budget picks in here, you know, because I know a lot of people are looking to free up some budget in order to get Haaland. Now, Foster at Burnley looks like he is pretty nailed on for minutes right now, which is positive to see. At 5 million, you shouldn't expect too much from him, and I wouldn't really be looking to play him every single game week. More of a rotation option, but if you are looking for the best 5 million or less forward, then Foster is probably that guy. If you want to spend a little bit more money, Isidore at 5.5 million is a risky alternative. And the reason he is risky is even though he has performed pretty well so far with 3 goals, it has to be said that I'm not sure Sunderland have completely settled on who is going to be their regular starting striker. We've seen Mayenda play there. We've also got the likes of Brobby, who was signed from Ajax. He's come into the Sunderland team as well for a decent amount of money. So you have to wonder who is going to be the long-term striker for Sunderland. Is it going to be Isidore? I'm not sure, but he's been doing pretty well so far. So therefore, 5.5 million, decent fixtures coming up. I think he is worth a look at, again, if you're looking to go cheap. But we have got Richarlison here as well as a monitor. Again, super risky. If you think his minutes are going to be good, then fair enough. His data is great. 13 shots, all in the box, 1.64 XG. He's already scored 3 goals. Very, very nice. And like I say, Wolves at home up next is a phenomenal fixture. Leeds away, Aston Villa at home, pretty decent as well in game week 7 or 8. But is he going to start all of these games? I don't know, and I cannot decide. Maybe Spurs fans, you can shed a little light on this one, but I just struggle to find myself convinced on his minutes, and that's why he's got to be a monitor. A little bit of a risky kind of buy there. And avoid Isak and Ekatike until we have further information. If you don't have these players already, there's really no need to take a risk and gamble on these guys. Just wait out these difficult fixtures against Crystal Palace and Chelsea away. After that, we may have a much better idea on just how important each of these players are going to be for FPL. So yeah, wait on these guys, but very soon, these could be very interesting. Voltemada as well, not really a player you're going to be looking to pick up ahead of the Arsenal game, but maybe a player we can move up into the monitor section for game week 7 onwards. Right now, at home against Arsenal, probably not going to be looking at this player at this exact moment, but an interesting pick for sure. One further thing of note on Voltemada is that Wissa, he is going to be back a little sooner than expected, so we're not sure how they're both going to fit into the same team. It remains to be seen, so I guess watch this space with this man. On to the midfielders, and apologies in advance, guys. There are so many great midfield options to buy right now that I cannot possibly fit all of them into one video, so I've tried to pick out the key ones, but if I miss anyone out, please do let me know in the comment section. When you guys write a comment of, a player that you have, you are thinking about, I will always happily give them a buy, sell, keep, or avoid rating for you guys, because unfortunately, we talk about like 50 plus players every single video. It's impossible to go to like 100 players, there's always going to be a different player you guys want to talk about. So yeah, like I say, let me know in the comments if I didn't talk about your player, but let's talk about these players. Semenyo, super, super obvious, doing really well. Data, amazing. Really only Haaland is putting up better data than Semenyo right now. 2.86 expected goals, 13 shots, 6 in the box. Couple of key passes as well, 8 there, which is not too bad at all. Leads away as the next fixture, which is very nice indeed as well. So a good hopping on point. And whilst Cliver is not on the pitch, it looks like Semenyo is going to be the penalty taker. When Cliver does play, a bit more of a mystery there. Reinders, I think, still a player to look at buying, particularly now he's down back at 5.6 million, offering a bit more value for money there. We spoke about him already, though. If you're looking to buy an Everton attacker, I do like Dewsbury Hall. I do like Grealish. But my favourite is still Njai. My opinion has not changed on that one. And he seems to be getting better and better as a pick. West Ham at home is the next fixture. So this is a nice jumping on point for him. But what I love about Njai is not only is he probably Everton's biggest attacking threat in terms of those goals, but his defensive contributions are pretty crazy. He's made 51 defensive contributions already. That is almost as many as Bruno Fernandes, who we already talk as a bit of a DEFCON monster. So yeah, Njai there's so many benefits to him. Penalties, best XG, or best opportunities to score for this Everton team typically. Little bit of creativity there as well. 7 key passes. That's actually better expected assists than Semenyo, despite having a slightly lower output and a great jumping on point with West Ham at home. So Njai, love him, great pick, no doubt about it. He's going to be a great pick. Kudus, one to monitor here as well. I could have put Xavi Simons maybe here as well, who I think is going to come straight back into the starting 11 come game week 6. Another good jumping on point at home against Wolves with some even better fixtures than Everton after that. The difference, I guess, between Kudus and Njai is I feel like the Spurs attacking returns are more spread among more different players. And Kudus so far has proven to be more of a creative man than a goal-scoring man. And, goals will come for him for sure. And the data is pretty okay, I suppose. It's nothing mind-blowing, but it's okay. And I think I'd be happy to pick him up at 6.6. If you prefer him to Njai, that's totally fair enough. I totally get it. Bruno Fernandes, one to monitor, particularly if you are on a wild card or a free hit right now. I would be considering Bruno for this game week. We've got some nice fixtures coming up. Outside of that Liverpool away fixture, you've got Brentford, you've got Sunderland, you've got Brighton. Bruno putting up some really nice data. 12 shots, 3 big chances, 2.61 XG with 2 goals, and an insane 15 key passes. How this man has not got an assist yet with the most key passes in the Premier League is really a mystery, and maybe can only be put down to some poor finishes on the part of Manchester United. But with Cunha and Mbeumo in tow, you would imagine that would change reasonably soon. So watch this space, Bruno Fernandes. He looks like a pretty decent pick even now. Foden, if you fancy taking a risk, Foden seems to be starting right now. I think this is a really risky one, though, because not only are you depending on him starting, but you're also depending on him showing or continuing good form that he did show in Game Week 4. Arsenal was a tough fixture, obviously in the midweek games as well. But it's not, they're really nice fixtures, and we know Foden's ceiling is very high. He's capable of those mega scores, so it's one to think about at the very least. We've got Caicedo here as well. I put him in the void last week, and maybe that was a little bit harsh on my part, so I'm happy to bump him up to monitor, just because his defensive contributions are so good right now, and I think that the need to have loads of Chelsea players is starting to slow down now a little bit. So could be a slightly better jumping on point in the near future. He is going to get defensive contributions against teams like Brighton and Liverpool. These are kind of suited to teams who, who are going to get defensive contributions. These are the kind of teams you probably want to play. Not that there's any doubt with Caicedo anyway. He gets them every single game. 74 defensive contributions so far is absolutely crazy. I'm going to put Doku in a void, just not convinced by his minutes right now. And his shooting data, not really too good. Only taken 1 shot so far this season. 9 key passes is, it's pretty decent for the minutes he has played, with 2 assists there. But it's just the minutes, man. I'm just concerned about rotation with Doku. Even if he plays in the near future, he is definitely going to cause you problems later down the line. And in the final avoid slots, we have got 2 defensive midfielders with terrible underlying numbers who have actually scored decent points so far this season. So Gravenberch and Zubimendi, both of these players have got a few points so far this season, but the underlying data suggests that this is not sustainable. This is not going to continue. And for both of these players, not an amazing jumping on point if you're looking for attacking returns. And, even though they are defensive midfielders, their defensive contributions as the kind of teams that they are, Liverpool and Arsenal, playing a lot with the ball, these are not players who are going to get huge amount of defensive contributions anyway. It's not really their kind of role in the setup that their teams kind of work with. So yeah, you're not going to get defensive contributions very often. These goal and assist numbers do not look sustainable. The fixtures up next for each of these players are not particularly good. They're just straight up avoid kind of players who I'm not really interested in at all. Until Gravenberch starts playing as an attacking midfielder, yeah, doesn't seem to be too much of a reason to go for him. He's not going to keep scoring at this rate, surely. 1 goal every other game. Would be happy if Salah was doing that. So Gravenberch sounds a little bit crazy. Okay, defenders to buy. Senesi, super obvious. Insane for defensive contributions with 65 so far this season. He has historically done quite well for attacking contributions as well. And we like the look of these fixtures, particularly from a defensive perspective for Senesi. Gabriel, nailed on Arsenal defender. Doing really well defensively so far. Possibly the best defense in the Premier League. Maybe Newcastle fans will have something to say about that one. But yeah, probably the best Arsenal defender for defensive contributions as well, and always had that little bit of attacking threat. Romero, similar situation, the best Spurs defender for defensive contributions, and has decent historical attacking threat as well. Really like these fixtures for Spurs right now, so I think it is worth spending the extra money, 5.1 million for Romero. I think he really could make good on that upgrade over someone like Van der Ven. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this one, maybe I'm right, but I for some reason I really like the look of the Romero pick at the moment, having watched him this season and looking at the fixtures and data. It's all kind of coming together to become a FPL asset, kind of like the look of a little bit. Certainly in the short term, whilst the fixtures are still quite good. I'm going to put Timber in monitor. I still think he's a really good pick, but I am still slightly worried about rotation with Ben White at some point or another. So I think he could cause some headaches later, and he's only 0.3 cheaper than Gabriel. So it's like, do you just buy Gabriel instead? Maybe. Chalobah seems to be really good for attacking contributions at the moment. Yeah, seems to be the target man for this Chelsea team, and not too bad for defensive contributions here either. 50 so far this season. That is pretty decent, generally speaking. The fixtures are good outside of Liverpool in Game Week 7 too. Van de Ven, we kind of spoke about already. All of his XG pretty much came in Game Week 1, where he missed pretty much an open goal. So, yeah, his attacking data outside of that is really, really weak, and he's not typically a player who scores very many goals. So I know he has scored so far this season, but yeah, typically that is not really what happens with him. So I would just spend the extra money on Romero if you have the choice. That's not to say Van de Ven is a bad pick or anything like that. The fixtures are good from here, so there's still plenty of reason to pick Van de Ven in your team. Tarkowski looks good for the next couple of game weeks, but the Everton fixtures really do drop off a cliff after that, and I would struggle to bench a 5.5 million defender against the likes of Man City, Spurs, some other tough fixtures coming up after that as well. So he's a really tricky one. Love him for defensive contributions, 62 so far this season. But, you know, it's like Senesi plays for a better defense, is cheaper, and is getting slightly more defensive contributions, and arguably has better attacking threat as well. Why go for Tarkowski over Senesi? If you're on a wild card or a free hit, again, maybe this is a different conversation. Maybe you're going to do things a little bit differently. But for transfers, I just don't know if I can justify Tarkowski right now. And I could be wrong about that one. Happy to hold my hands up if I am. He's getting defensive contributions, which seems to be huge right now. But for a long-term pick, not sure if I love him. If you already have him, amazing. Avoid Anderson. I just don't think it's a good time to buy him. Again, if you are on a wild card, then Anderson, picking him up, leaving him on your bench in maybe some of these tougher fixtures could definitely work out as a long-term play. But using transfers, probably not the jumping on point for him right now, even though I love this FPL asset as a long-term pick. Just maybe not the right moment to bring him in. Again, maybe I'm wrong about that one. We'll have to see. Dan Burn, don't like this jumping on point. Arsenal at home, not the right moment for me. Same with Crystal Palace defenders. Liverpool is not going to be a very good jumping on point for Mark Gay. And even if you do want a Crystal Palace defender, I am still very much team Chris Richards at 4.5 million. So I'm always going to say go for Richards ahead of Gay. Richards is just offering more in attack. I know it doesn't look like it, but when you watch Crystal Palace in all competitions, and for some reason I'm watching a lot of Crystal Palace this season, you will see that Richards is just as valuable, if not more valuable in attack than Mark Gay. And also Richards is much better for defensive contributions and cheaper. So that's why I'm team Richards. I'm continuing to be team Richards. And therefore there's not really a place for Mark Gay in my FPL team, at least. Maybe you feel differently, but certainly you're not going to buy him against Liverpool. And for goalkeepers, I wanted to put Sanchez in the keep section here, just because I know some people think because he was red carded in the Premier League in Game Week 5 that he's going to be suspended in Game Week 6. Now, that is not going to be the case, as Sanchez will serve his suspension in the League Cup midweek game. So he is going to be available for Game Week 6. You don't need to sell him if you don't want to. That's not me saying that Sanchez is an amazing pick or anything like that. You just don't need to sell him. So he's not suspended. You're good. Don't worry. Chill, guys. We're all good in the hood. Happy days. Sells also probably not a player to sells because Sunderland at home up next. Not maybe after that you can sell him, but probably not this week, particularly if just using transfers, not using chips. And yeah, as always, if we're talking about transfers, the only goalkeepers I would want to sell are goalkeepers who are not playing, aka Trafford, Edison, maybe a couple of others that you might have, but probably not. In the buy section, we've got Raya, still my favorite goalkeeper to buy if you're looking to go expensive. If you want to go cheap, I do like Petrovic at 4.5 million because Bournemouth have just been so good defensively, and we've got a decent run of fixtures coming up as well. But you have to remember, guys, when picking a goalkeeper, you are most likely doing it for the long term. So make sure you're not just looking at the immediate fixtures, but maybe looking at the next 10, 15, maybe even 20 game weeks, because that is how long you could have any goalkeeper you choose to transfer in this week. In terms of those avoids, I'm going to put Donnarumma in here. Maybe I've been scarred so many times by Edison, but Man City so far this season have been around mid-table on their defensive data. So there's not really too much to suggest that Man City are going to be the best defense in the Premier League. And when we consider Donnarumma is now 5.6 million, making him the most expensive goalkeeper in the game of FPL, don't really see a reason to go for Donnarumma over Raya. Maybe the only reason is people are looking for those immediate returns. Maybe if you're on a free hit and you like the look of Donnarumma against Burnley, then yeah, hell yeah, I love it too. But as a transfer, not super keen on him as a long-term goalkeeper pick at that kind of price. And Pope, we spoke about jumping on points so many times in this video. It's the same with Pope. You're probably not going to buy him ahead of this Arsenal fixture, but maybe, just maybe, after that. And those are all the players we're going to talk about in today's video. If I missed anyone out, make sure you drop a comment with that player, and I will give them a rating: buy, sell, keep, or avoid. Make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you want to be in for a chance of winning a copy of FC26. Hit the subscribe button, and until tomorrow's video, I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.